This week in news surrounding Israel, Canada is no place for Al-Quds Day Israel hate fests. It's time to end the hate now. So stay tuned, friends, for all the details. Well, shalom, everyone. Welcome once again to this week's newscast. I'm Robert Gottslig, your host. And over the weekend, pro-Hamas Palestinian supporters took to the streets once again in Toronto to demonize Israel and the Jewish people in an Al-Quds Day hate fest. The Canadian Jewish News reporting on Sunday's event said this, that about 2,000 anti-Israel protesters turned up in downtown Toronto on March 23rd for the annual Al-Quds Day march in support of a free Palestine. While Toronto police had vowed days earlier to beef up their presence at the event and look out for hateful activity, their response has been called a Band-Aid approach to address spiking anti-Semitism in the country. They further went on to report here that the Canadian Jewish News Daily's host Alan Besner went to cover the event and clearly heard anti-Semitic chants of "Go back to Europe," aimed at the tiny but loud group of Jews. She saw anti-Israel Jews calling Zionism Satanism, and she herself was followed, harassed, and chased off of a public city sidewalk and street by anti-Israel protesters when they discovered she worked for a Jewish news organization. Friends, these hate-filled rallies have no place here in Canada, and Toronto needs to ban this demonic activity now. Michelle Stock, Vice President of the Centre for Israel and Jewish Affairs in Ontario, reminded us the other day in an article she wrote that for the past 18 months, Toronto has been plagued by an alarming surge in anti-Semitic violence. Jewish schools have been struck by gunfire, synagogues firebombed, and Jewish neighborhoods viciously targeted. On Monday, a man was granted bail after being charged with 19 counts of hate crimes, including incitement to genocide and possessing 3 loaded handguns. Throughout the city, our community has been subjected to calls for our destruction, including chants for Jews to go back to Europe. Protesters have gone beyond demonstrating outside consulates to infiltrating the heart of our communities, turning their venomous rhetoric into violence against Jewish-owned businesses and institutions. And on Tuesday evening, that was just last week, protesters in downtown Toronto held a pro-terror rally, some flaunting Hamas symbols and uniforms, many blocking residents from accessing their own homes while harassing and intimidating them. Listen to this. It says the intimidation has been relentless and protesters have only grown bolder in their actions. This Sunday, and just speaking of what happened last Sunday, what we're reporting on here, this newscast, Toronto will fall again victim to an annual Al-Quds Day rally. Al-Quds Day, which, by the way, as she's reminding us, was established by Iran's Islamic regime, and it promotes the destruction of Israel and the eradication of its people. This rally not only spreads hate and anti-Semitism, but also raises serious national security concerns, particularly after Canada listed Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity last year. The rallies, including those here in Toronto, have witnessed violent rhetoric and displays that stand in stark contrast to the values we as Canadians hold dear. Messages like, from the river to the sea, go back to Europe, and Intifada revolution have no place in our society. Under Canadian law, advocating genocide, promoting hatred, and inciting violence are criminal offenses. So why then are these rallies being allowed to take place in our cities? Friends, that's not the Canada that I once knew, and it has to stop because it's not the Canada that any of us want to live in. Why are we allowing these hate-filled, hate-fest rallies to continue in our cities? We need to end the hatred now. And so, friends, you can help with that by simply clicking on the link provided in this week's newscast description. You can find that link, click on it, and it's going to take you to a letter put together by Brith, which is a Jewish organization here in Canada that fights against anti-Semitism. So if you click on that, you can sign that, and it will go directly to the mayors in Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and Calgary, imploring them to ban these hate fest. So that is something that we all can do. And to take back our Canada and protect the safety of the Jewish community and really for all of us Canadians. You know, recently I spoke to a Christian seniors group about Israel and the Jewish people and God's love and prophetic plan for them. And in a time of questions afterwards, the gentleman commented that what I had said was a bunch of rhetoric. And he mentioned that why don't we at the Friends of Israel love and stand with the Palestinians? And my response to him was simple. Just because our ministry is to stand with Israel and the Jewish people doesn't mean that we don't also love those that call themselves Palestinians. No. But we will not have anything to do with promoting the false narrative that there was this long-lost land called Palestine that had its own unique culture, government, and people, and that now that the Jewish people have stolen that from them, and now they're occupiers of stolen Palestinian land. No, we are not going to promote or do anything to condone that lie. And that's what I said to him. That lie and that notion of doing that, and that even as Christians, we would have more sympathy for the so-called Palestinians than the Jewish people in whom God is calling back to the land of Israel that he swore to them as an everlasting possession. If we're going to stand with the lie that the Jewish people are possessors of stolen Palestinian land, that is right from the pits of hell. That is demonic in its origin because, see, Satan has always been trying to destroy the Jewish people. He's always been trying to erase Israel from the map. Because if he can do that, then God's promises can't come true, and God's a liar, and Satan can't be judged. And that is the heart of anti-Semitism. And therefore I said to that gentleman, to stand with the Palestinians while we condemn the Jewish people, that's from the pits of hell. And as Christians, we should want nothing to do with that. And my prayer for the Palestinians is that they would put down their weapons and end their hate and finally make peace with Israel. And then until they do that, friends, there will never be peace. But it's time to end the hate now. Well, what does God have to say about all of this? Well, very simply, as we read in Psalm 132, verses 13 and 14, God says this. He says, "For the Lord has chosen Zion." You see, God is a Zionist. He's chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling place. "This is my resting place forever. Here I will dwell, for I have desired it." You see, he's placed his name there forever. God is a Zionist. Friends, to be a Zionist means that you acknowledge that the Jewish people have been given the land of Israel as an everlasting possession, and they're returning to that. Friends, that is biblical. God's a Zionist. He's placed his name there forever. And therefore, he also issues a warning to the haters out there. Psalm 129, verses 5 and 6. God says this, "Let all those who hate Zion be put to shame and turned back. Let them be as the grass on the housetops, which withers before it grows up." And with that, friends, and until next time, thanks for joining us on another episode of In News Surrounding Israel. God bless.